Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today, well, I've got some pretty good news. We've got a couple of new cards to talk about, one of which is kind of interesting, and we saw it coming, and that's absolutely okay, because it's still awesome. And another is a rather nice, well, we've got a couple of cards we need to have a quick talk about. One is kind of relevant, one is interesting, but not terribly relevant in terms of playability. But we're going to start off today talking about the big story, and that is Professor's Research, Juniper. Now, we should take a step back and say that what's gone and happened overnight, at least overnight our time, is that the official Pokemon website over in Japan has gone and revealed the contents of the Blastoise and Venusaur V Max decks. And there are some new stuff coming, like Professor's Research Juniper. Now, in terms of what the card does exactly what you would expect the card to do. It is Professor's Research. It is in every way, shape and form exactly the same as Professor's Research Magnolia. There are two differences. Difference number one, it's got a picture of Professor Juniper on, not Professor Magnolia. Difference number two, it's got the subtitle Juniper rather than Magnolia. Other than that, it is the exact same card. It is a supporter card that lets you discard your entire hand and draw 7 cards. Though frankly, ladies and gentlemen, this seems like justice to me, because we've seen this card a bunch of times before. Before it was Professor's Research Magnolia, it was Professor Sycamore, and before it was Professor Sycamore, it was Professor Juniper. So you know what? She was here first. This was, unless I'm missing something obvious here, this was the origin of this card. So, yeah, this makes perfect sense. Now, some of you are going to be pointing out, well, hang on a second, Wassy. Are you forgetting about base set Professor Oak? No. I'm not forgetting about base set Professor Oak. Base set Professor Oak did, of course, discard your hand and draw 7 cards. But it was a trainer card back in the days when supporter cards didn't exist, which meant you could just play 4 of these in a single turn. Which, for anyone wondering, yes, it was entirely broken, especially bearing in mind that at the time we had the card item finder that would let you reuse it. Discard 2 cards from your hand, find a trainer card, put it into your hand, but everything was a trainer card other than Pokemon and Energy. So yes, I know Professor Oak was the first, but no, it wasn't really the first. Juniper was the first as we recognize them nowadays. So I love that she's back. And I'll be honest with you, I'm playing through all the Pokemon generations as I go through my history videos on a Sunday, and I've just finished my playthrough of Platinum. Supreme Victors is coming up this weekend, so pretty well timed, and I'm trying to hold off like 6 weeks to start Gen 5, because I love Gen 5. I am genuinely hyped to play through it again, so I love that we're getting Professor's Research Juniper. From a practical standpoint, this is incredibly important, and the reason it's incredibly important is because Professor's Research Magnolia is almost guaranteed to rotate in September 2022. We have as good as been told that September 2021 we are rotating to D onwards. You'll notice there is a little D symbol in the bottom left-hand corner of the card, which means that Professor Magnolia will be legal, will be rotating to Sword and Shield onwards. Which means that logically we'll be rotating to E onwards in September 2022 and getting rid of Professor's Research. Which means we will need Professor's Research, and this will keep it in the format. They have the same name. So although the subtitle is different, Professor's Research Magnolia and Professor's Research Juniper, they are to all intents and purposes the same card, which means that even though Professor's Research Magnolia goes away, Professor's Research Juniper will stay. Now, having said that, it is being printed with rotation mark D in this particular deck. Personally, as far as I'm concerned, my prediction, we will get it printed in a regular set with an E mark. I don't think it's going to be confined just to these decks. I don't think it's going to be exclusive. Could be, could not. But even if it is, even if for argument's sake it is, this is still a good thing. Because we had Boss's Orders Giovanni, and then, and I want to say it's in these same decks, we had it confirmed that we are getting Boss's Orders Lysander. Same card, but with Lysander instead of Giovanni. And again, this is a really cool thing, because Boss's Orders is literally just a reprint of Lysander, which interestingly enough is just a reprint of base set Gust of Wind, but as a supporter card. Yeah, they did turn base set trainer cards into supporter cards later on, which then ended up being the supporter cards with titles that then get reprinted with different characters. I like the through thread here, it's rather nice. But I made the same point then when we had Boss's Orders Lysander. This means they're going to keep going. It was the Blastoise and Venusaur decks, I wasn't lying to you. And they also have Regulation Mark D, and I also don't care. It was pretty much a given that they were going to start printing these with other characters, but now that they have done, I don't see why they would stop. This shows that Pokemon want these two cards, Professor's Research and Boss's Orders, to basically be around for a while, and given that these are two of the best, most staple-y cards in the entire game, that is to say, they're in like every deck, this is a wonderful, wonderful thing. Plus, I love Gen 8. I've had a great time with Generation 8, and it's not over yet. I played Sword, I played Shield, I played both the DLCs. I'm still playing through raid battles and endless raids and all of that. I adore Gen 8. But it ain't no Gen 5, ladies and gentlemen. It ain't no Gen 5. So please bear in mind, this is pretty gosh darn big news. Most of you, I assume, are playing 4 of these in every deck. The only decks that don't play for Professor's Research are Welder decks that want to play Welder every turn, and some Stage 2 decks playing stuff like Rare Candy, or super special energy heavy decks, maybe like a Porygon Z deck, which is also a Stage 2 deck incidentally, because they have cards that you cannot afford to discard. Outside of that, this is a staple in every deck. Now, I do need to mention just quickly here, we are getting our first ever non-V Zarude card. Zarude is finally coming out as a non-Pokemon V, and I hate to break it to you, ladies and gentlemen, it's not good. It's really not good. 120 HP is that awkward situation where there's a bunch of Pokemon that naturally do 120. 130 would be way better. It's got 2 attacks. One lets you, for 2 energy, do 30 damage and heal 30. We're not doing enough damage and you're not healing enough damage, so cheers for that. And then 3 energy, 110 damage. Maybe as a non-V, non-GX attacker in Rillaboom decks. But even then, we've got multiple options for other Pokemon that can do better. Heracross from Rebel Clash has 3 energy, 110, but has an extra HP, extra 10. Genesect does 120 for 3 energy. That's from Vivid Voltage. Dalmise from Vivid Voltage does 120 if you've got any special energy on and has 130 HP. I'm not going to keep going because I think I've made my point. No. Sorry, I like Zarude. Zarude's a cool Pokemon. But no. The one Pokemon we do need to have a quick bit of a look at here, as Antoine put it, the only potentially competitively relevant Pokemon in the decks, though we are pushing that a little bit, is Tropius. Now, I do love the retreat cost of 1 here, because that gives you access to U-turn board. 110 HP I'm not terribly impressed with. 2 energy, 30 damage I am not terribly impressed with. But for a single colourless energy, you get to attach up to 2 grass energy from your discard pile to your benched Pokemon in any way that you like. It's another one of these moderately big basic Pokemon that just attaches a bunch of energy. And these have seen a bunch of play in the past. Volcanion was a good one, though Volcanion did do 20 damage while accelerating. But then again, Volcanion had to do 2 energy to different Pokemon. This could do 2 to the same. so that's quite nice. Even nowadays, we see Duraludon seeing a bunch of play in metal decks, but then again, that is as much for the free energy 110 as for the 30 damage accelerating energy. In the early game, this can be really nice if you're playing things like Rillaboom decks or Zarude V decks, and you do just want to get a bunch of energy on the field in the early game while you're setting up. Yeah, by all means, this will work nicely. A lot of grass decks do tend to play Rowlet and Alolan Executor for the 0 energy attack that lets you evolve a basic right up to a stage 2, like for instance Rillaboom. So I'm not saying that this is going to see a redonkulous amount of play, but I am telling you that if you're playing a grass deck and you want to try and get some energy on the field in the early game, you can do an awful lot worse than this. Not a Pokemon that's going to see a huge amount of play, just to be clear, but I do believe a Pokemon that could end up seeing a bunch of play, and I would not be surprised if grass decks get quite good. I would not be surprised to see this popping up as a 1 or 2 of in an awful lot of those grass decks. No promises, but I think we could be onto a little bit of something fun here. I mean, this seems like a standard free Wossie card. This seems like, I'm not scoring Zarude. This seems like a standard free Wossie card. It's the kind of card you need to have in your binder, because you might want to pop it out and pop it into some decks in the future. Do bear in mind, though, that we could be just a couple of weeks or 1 card away from this becoming a genuinely relevant card and knocking it up to a much higher Wossie score. I don't know. What I do know is I'd like to hear what you think about this, and because I didn't get to say it yesterday because those videos were made in advance, happy Thanksgiving to all you lovely ladies and gentlemen listening over in the US. I know I am a day late and I apologize for that, but I didn't record the videos I put up yesterday. Yesterday they were recorded a bit in advance. I didn't know they were Thanksgiving videos. I apologize, but I'm wishing you a lovely Thanksgiving now. And I did put it over on Twitter, so hopefully you guys saw it there. But yeah, tell me what you think about these cards. Go nuts, be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWassie, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCG Radio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can do exactly that. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.